Hey everyone, it's Quinn, and today I'm going to be doing my first ever Senate predictions map for the 2018 midterms. This is as of September 18th, 2018. We've had some really interesting polls within the last couple of days come out, and we're about 50 days or so from the midterms, so I figured now would be a perfect opportunity to give you, as of now, with all the polling, expert opinions, fundraising, historical context that we have, as of September, give you my best guess as to what is going to happen in the Senate. Increasingly, it's looking like Democrats are going to take control of the House, but there are a lot of questions in the Senate. Democrats, despite what is looking like a blue wave year, have to defend an abysmal map, so we're going to see what's going to happen. I'm going to go through the safe districts really quick, and then we'll get into the interesting ones. So King is safe in Maine, Sanders is safe in Vermont, Gillibrand is safe in New York, Warren is safe in Massachusetts, Whitehouse is safe in Rhode Island, Murphy is safe in Connecticut, Carper is safe in Delaware, Cardin is safe in Maryland, Cantwell is safe in Washington, Feinstein is safe in California, and in fact there are two Democrats on the ballot in California, so Republicans have a 0% chance winning here. Hirono is safe in Hawaii, Heinrich is safe in New Mexico. As for the Republicans, Romney is safe in Utah, Barrasso is safe in Wyoming, and Wicker is safe in Mississippi. There are a couple more safe states that I'll list as safe, but these shaded ones so far, I don't think there are any debate about. So the next one I'm going to put in the safe column is Pennsylvania. I do believe Bob Casey, the incumbent, has a very good chance of winning re-election here. He's quite popular, and he has consistently shown double-digit leads. I don't think he'll have a problem winning re-election in Pennsylvania. Tim Kaine, same situation in Virginia. I don't think he'll have much of an issue winning re-election here. He's against Corey Stewart, who's a fringe right-wing Republican, quite controversial, and in fact would probably have a difficult time winning a statewide office race in a state like Virginia. Tim Kaine also showing double-digit leads in the polls there. He should have no problem. Stabenow in Michigan. Originally, I thought this might be more trouble for Democrats. John James on the Republican side seems pretty energizing and likable here. Got early backing from Trump, but Stabenow, latest poll showed her up 23 points. An internal poll from the John James camp showed Stabenow up 11 points. If an internal poll shows that you're down 11 points, then you're probably down a lot. 538 has this race at a greater than 99 in 100 chance that Stabenow wins, so I am putting this in the safe column officially. Amy Klobuchar in Minnesota should easily win re-election here. She's a very popular incumbent. Latest poll showed her up 30 points. She should have no problem winning here. And I believe that does it for all my safe states. So now we're going to move into the likelies. I skipped over New Jersey earlier. I'm actually going to put that in the likely column, even though 538 puts it at solid D, because I believe Bob Menendez is not a great candidate for Democrats compared to some of the other incumbents. He's quite unfavorable. In the past couple of years, he's had some legal troubles, which is probably why he's unfavorable. I still think he has a really good shot at winning. His RCP average is +8, so he should be fine. It's just not quite as safe as some of these other states. I'm also going to put Ohio in the likely column. Originally I had it actually safe, but the reason I have it in the likely and not safe is because we haven't had any new data recently. Sherrod Brown, the incumbent Democrat, is very popular. He was consistently showing double-digit leads, RCP average of 15.4, but all of these polls are from June. We don't have any polls since then. I would really like to see a poll at least showing consistent double-digit lead within the last, couple of weeks to be able to say this is safe. There just isn't a lot of new information here, and that is why I'm moving it to likely for now. If anything, it probably got better for Sherrod Brown than worse, because generally across the country it got better for Democrats within the last couple of months, but I still need newer information before I can put this in the safe column. I'm also going to put Wisconsin in the likely column for Tammy Baldwin. Only reason this is not safe is because her poll numbers actually don't look amazing. They're showing her with an RCP average of +8. I mean, obviously that's good, and it means she'll likely win. It just means it's not quite as good as some of the other safe races. I'm also putting West Virginia in the the likely column. A lot of people might give me heat for that. It is West Virginia after all, but you have to remember there are a lot of registered Democrats in West Virginia. Joe Manchin has easily won re-election before. He's quite popular in West Virginia. Also, the primary numbers for Joe Manchin looked very good for Democrats in general in West Virginia. More Democrats voted than Republicans. And latest poll showed him up 12 points. His RCP average is around 9 points, 9.3. He should have no problem winning re-election here. Both of these special elections I actually want to talk about at the same time. I believe it is likely that Republicans win the special Senate election in Mississippi. Mike Espy, the Democrat, is a pretty good candidate, but we're talking about Mississippi here. It'll be really hard for him to win, even though he will probably do a good job of energizing the African American vote there. It would be very hard for a Democrat to win here. Kind of same situation, just reversed in Minnesota. Tina Smith is the special election incumbent in Minnesota. She was appointed to this seat after Al Franken resigned. Doesn't have a whole lot of name recognition. You know, so she will likely win this, but her poll numbers are consistently showing her up about 6 or 7 points. It's not enough to call this safe. If anything, she'll likely just get carried by Klobuchar, who's also on the same ballot as her. And then she'll probably gain recognition as she works more in the Senate. But until then, this is likely and not safe. Finally, for the likely states, Nebraska, I am putting in the likely column. Some people might be surprised by that, but I feel like Nebraska should be distinguished between other states like Utah and Wyoming. 538 actually has the Democrat Jane Raybould with a 1 in 12 chance of winning this race. Obviously, those aren't great odds, but they aren't 0% chance odds like you're pretty much seeing in Utah. So I definitely think that this should be distinguished from the safe states and be put in likely. Republicans shouldn't have an issue here, but it is a little bit closer than the safe states. So what we have remaining now are really the what I would consider the kind of toss-up states. There are a couple left. All of these remaining I will put in the lean column one way or the other. I will leave none of them as toss-ups because I will give you my best guess for every single one. There are a couple that I'm a little bit more confident in, and I'm going to do them now. I'm starting with Indiana. I'm going to put this in the lean blue column. Some people have been putting this lean red recently. I'm putting it in the lean blue because I'm taking into consideration blue wave year, incumbent advantage for the Democrat, and the Democrat is up in the polling average. His RCP average is 3.8. That is a little inflated, I believe, by an outlier poll showing he was up 12. Interestingly enough, that was a Republican poll. I'm not sure what happened with that one, but that is probably not right. But an NBC News Marist poll showed Donnelly up 6, and then a Fox News poll showed his opponent Mike Braun up 2. So, it's going a little bit back and forth. Overall, the polling slightly supports the Democrat. He does, like I said, have the incumbency advantage. I think he will narrowly win this one, and so I'm putting it in the lean D column. Montana, I am also putting in the lean D column. Jon Tester is quite a popular candidate here in Montana, an incumbent, I should say. And Montana is also one of the states that just sometimes elects statewide Democrats. So, the polling is showing Tester consistently ahead, not by much. Latest poll showed him up 2. But you have to remember in 2012, when Jon Tester was running, his Republican was winning the RCP average by 0.4, and Tester ended up winning 3.7. So historical context would indicate Jon Tester will probably win this pretty comfortably. I mean, not by a large margin, but it's pretty easy to predict that he's the favorite in this race. So the races remaining are the ones that are hardest for me to predict. And I'm going to try to start with the ones that are slightly easier and then go to the harder ones. So I'm going to go with Texas next. This is a very interesting race. Arguably the most interesting, at least the most talked about in political discourse right now. Beto O'Rourke, the Democrat, whether you agree or not with him, has run a fantastic campaign. He's visited every county in Texas, and he's made this a close race, believe it or not. All the polls do show Ted Cruz ahead of Beto O'Rourke, but not by much. Latest poll showed him up 1. Before that, it was +4, +6, +2. His RCP average is +3.2. So Cruz is winning in all of these polls, but barely. I do think in the next 10 years, you should all pay attention to Texas, because I think the demographic shifts will turn the state purple. I just don't know that it's quite ready yet. And so for that reason, and for the reason that Ted Cruz is still slightly ahead in all this polling, I am going to put this in the lean Republican column for now. I think Beto O'Rourke will get close. I just don't know that it's quite time for a Democrat to win this seat and unseat Ted Cruz. I'm going to go to the West and cover Nevada and Arizona as well. In Nevada, there is a Republican incumbent, and this is arguably the best chance that Democrats have to unseat a Republican incumbent. The Republican incumbent, Dean Heller, is quite unpopular, and it's actually interesting because we only have 2 polls relatively recently. Within the last month. The poll before that was in April, so we really only have 2 recent polls, both showing the Democrat Jackie Rosen, a congresswoman from Nevada, up 1 point and then up 2 points. The trend is definitely going in the Democrats' favor, and so for that reason, for the reason that this state went for Clinton in 2016, I am going to put this in the lean Republican column. Lean Democratic column. It's definitely looking good for the Democrat here. It's still close, and there is an incumbency advantage on the side of the Republicans. But for all the data we have recently, the new data we have, the Democrat is ahead. In Arizona, there is no incumbency advantage. We have an open seat. Jeff Flake is retiring, versus Kyrsten Sinema and Martha McSally. Before the Arizona primary, Kyrsten Sinema, the Democrat, looked like she was way ahead of any Republican. Since the primary ended, it's closed a bit. We saw a couple polls showing the Republican Martha McSally up 1 point and then 3 points, but then suddenly we saw more polls come out showing the Democrat up ahead again. And so those latest polls were Fox News within the last week showing Sinema up 3, and CNN just earlier today, or I should say yesterday, showing Sinema up 7. So it's trending in the Democrats' favor. RCP average is the Democrat Sinema up plus 1.5. This is, based on the data, looking slightly better for the Democrat. It's very close, but there is no incumbency advantage. I am going to slightly give this to the Democrat based off of the polling data that we have. The last 4 races are probably the hardest for me. Well, I'm going to start with Tennessee, and then the last 3 are absolutely really difficult. Tennessee is hard, don't get me wrong, but I am a little bit more confident. So one of the big reasons why I actually did this video was because earlier, same time as the Arizona poll that came out showing Sinema up 7, we had a poll showing the Democrat in Tennessee up 5. This is a really interesting race because there is also no incumbent in this race. Bob Corker is resigning here. And the polls here don't agree with each other at all. It goes from Democrat +5 to Republican +3 to Democrat +2 to Republican +4. But and so that does leave an RCP statistical tie in Tennessee. But the latest poll does show Bredesen, the Democrat, up 5. Phil Bredesen has won statewide office in Tennessee before. He is very, very popular even to this day. He was a very popular governor. He won every county when he won the election about 12 years ago. He is pretty much probably the only Democrat in Tennessee that could win this seat, and well, he's running, so Democrats in Tennessee should be very happy. He has a very good shot, and because of the latest poll, because of blue headwinds, because there's no incumbency advantage, because of his popularity, I'm going to put this in the lean blue column for now until we get new data. So the remaining races are difficult for me. They are by far the most difficult for me to predict. I believe these 3 will probably be the closest races. And so I want to start with Missouri. So in Missouri, The last four polls, reliable polls we've had, showed Claire McCaskill and Josh Hawley, the Republican, tied. All four of them showed them tied. There was a recent poll that showed the Republican up 3, but that was a Republican pollster, so I don't weight that as highly as the other polls. So they're basically at a statistical tie. The only thing I can really go off of is Claire McCaskill is the incumbent. She has incumbency advantage. She has the name recognition. She has the money. And she's won re-election in this state before. Now, it's been different situations. Her last re-election was a lot easier than this one. But she does have a really good environment, political environment, within the entire country to win re-election. If she were to win re-election, it would need to be in a year like this with so much blue energy. I tend to think that the polls are underestimating Democrats because they tend to underestimate energy like they did in 2016 for Trump's energy. For that reason, because all of these polls show a tie, because she has incumbency advantage, and because I think polls might be underestimating some energy, I'm going to put this in the lean blue column. This is one of the hardest ones for me to rate. I definitely think this could go back and forth, and we'll have to see what happens in the next few weeks, but for now I'm putting it in the lean blue column. Going up to North Dakota, Heidi Heitkamp is the Democrat incumbent there. How she's even elected in this office is beyond me. She won in 2012 against an at-large congressman, at-large congressional district congressman, so someone who had statewide name recognition, and the polls consistently showed that Republican up. It actually showed him up with an average RCP average of 5.7, and she won by 0.9. She completely outperformed the polls in 2012. That might be a fluke. It might be because the Republican didn't run a great campaign. I'm not entirely sure the context of that. What I know now is that in the last two polls, really we only have one recent poll, it shows her opponent Kevin Cramer up 4. The poll before that in June also showed him up 4, and we really don't have a whole lot of data here, but really with the recent data we have, it's really only one poll, and it's showing Heitkamp down. So for that reason, and for the reason that I don't necessarily think, I think it might have been a fluke that she was able to win despite all the polls showing she wasn't going to in 2012, I'm going to put this in the lean Republican column. It's very hard for me to rate this as well. I think her incumbency and her popularity among moderates in North Dakota, and the fact that she's outperformed at-large congressional district congressmen, and outperformed polls in the past, I think all of those could mean she could still win. But for now, based off of the data we have, the very little data we have, I'm going to put it in the Republican column. So finally, that leaves Florida. This is an interesting race to me. Before the Florida primary, I would have put this race in Rick Scott, the Republican's column. I would have pretty handedly, actually. I would have still put it lean, but I would have been pretty confident in my prediction because he's quite a popular governor, has statewide name recognition, and all the polls were showing him pretty much consistently up. Recently, though, the latest polls have shown a couple of ties, and then it showed Scott +2, but then it showed Bill Nelson, the Democrat, +1. It's really close, an RCP average of Scott plus 1.6, so the Republican is slightly up in the polling. I would normally, like I said, I would normally put this in the lean red column. The reason I'm putting it in the lean blue column is this. Since the primary in Florida, we've had obviously a Democratic and Republican primary for the governor's race, and in the Democratic primary, Andrew Gillum won. He defied all expectations, and as an African-American progressive, he won. He is already showing that he's ahead in polling against his Republican opponent in the governor's race, Rob DeSantis. He is Very energizing, a very good speaker. Again, he's an African American progressive, so he's going to bring out the African American vote. He's going to bring out the progressive vote, two voter bases in the Democratic Party that likely wouldn't have been so energized to vote for just Bill Nelson and some establishment Democrat governor. But they're going to be energized to vote for Gillum, which means they're going to vote for Nelson down ballot, likely a lot of them. So if anything will help Nelson, I believe the governor's race will. I believe the governor's race is going to energize Democrats in Florida. Andrew Gillum will likely win based off the polling we're seeing so far in the governor's race. He's very energizing. If he wins by a decent margin, I think he'll help carry Bill Nelson over the line as well. I think there is a situation, a possibility that Andrew Gillum, the governor, will win and Nelson will still lose. But there's also the history of Rick Scott not winning his governor elections by that much, even in red wave years. So a lot of context here tends to make me think that Nelson will slightly edge this out. I think it'll be a very close race. And new data, new polling that shows Scott even more ahead could change my mind here. But yeah, so this is my prediction as of September. I have it Democrats 51-49. It's crazy to think that Democrats could take control, but you have to remember incumbency in a lot of these red states even matters. It matters a lot, especially in blue wave years. They've done it in non-blue wave years. They can do it in this blue wave year. I wouldn't be so sure that so many of these incumbents are going to lose. By the way, same with the Republicans. Incumbency advantage is a real thing, and polling is a real thing. So this is my prediction. Again, I might come out with a new video changing this, and we'll have to see. Thanks.